how I see myself is I see myself as a partner, essentially a coaching partner, which means that I'm there to support people to achieve outcomes that they didn't think that they were potentially capable of. And I think that when you have somebody who's encouraging you to be your best, to show up as your best, then the chances are you're much more likely to do it because you feel like you have somebody else who believes in you, somebody else who thinks you're capable, somebody else who maybe is seeing things that you don't see in yourself. I'm here because I see we've got a huge problem to fix. The world is in a state of stagnation from a leadership perspective. Women are hugely underrepresented still globally in government positions, in corporations, in those top, C-suite positions within organizations. And not just the C-suite, also those sort of senior leadership roles. The thing that's really frustrating, I think, is that time and time again, research is showing that women are effective leaders, they're strong leaders, they do well on all sorts of different measures that constitute effective leadership. So being able to transform a business around and deliver exceptional results, innovation, galvanizing a team, inspiring a team to create great results. We still have this problem where women just aren't reaching those more senior echelons. So I see there's that huge problem there that is actually a systemic problem, but women are being told that it's their problem to fix. I think that's the thing that frustrates me the most, is that women consistently told, well, you just need to be more confident. You just need to be more assertive. You just need to deliver more of these exceptional results. And quite frankly, the results aren't in question. Just delivering more of the same exceptional results isn't going to get you the promotion. I think that's the thing that I think women have been sold. I think it's a lie because, like I say, the results aren't in question, and just doing more of the same is not going to create a new outcome. You have to do something different. And for me, that piece that's missing is strategy. And I find that women are just not given the same career advice I think a lot of men are given. I think for me, it's about helping women learn strategy around their career so that they can take charge of their career, so that they're not just sort of passive. Because we all have the responsibility in ourselves to take control of where we want to go. So for me, it's about asking yourself big questions like, is this role the right role for me? Am I getting the right opportunities from the role that I'm in at the moment? Do I see that there's a sort of a 5-year opportunity for me here longer term? Like, is there a plan for me? Do people around me have a plan for me? These are big questions that we need to ask ourselves. And if we don't feel like we're getting the opportunities that we want, then we have to seek them out. So for example, I've had clients pitch for opportunities that don't exist within their companies before, where we've kind of gone, well, where can we add value to the business? What is the business trying to do here? And do we see that there's a sweet spot opportunity that everybody's missing that we can actually pitch for, and we can create a role for ourselves? We can create an opportunity for ourselves within this business. I've had clients do that before. On the other side of the coin, you've obviously got the system, and there is a difference here for men and women, right? And minority groups generally within organizations. And that is sometimes beyond our control, right? So you have issues around bias, and we have issues around discrimination. So for example, some of the challenges that clients have had and come to me to are things like, I just didn't know that there was an opportunity being made available internally. There's suddenly this new man in this role. I would have gone for that role if I'd known that it was an opportunity for me, but I didn't even know that it was something I could even interview for. There was no interview process for that role. It just sort of happened. There are assumptions that are made about women and what women want from their careers. You go out to have a child, for example, there are those penalties around that in terms of pay. We all know that's very well documented around the gender gap and how that can be a penalty coming back into work having had a child. There are assumptions that are made around women's ambitions as they either grow older or as they have children. There are assumptions that are made about whether or not they want to travel, for example, and take on a regional role or take on a global role, and travel kind of come as part of their job. When I first speak to clients, the words that they use are very similar. When I ask them to explain how they're feeling, when I ask them to explain what the challenges are that they're facing, they'll say things like, look, I feel really overwhelmed. I feel like I'm completely unrecognized. I feel like I'm delivering exceptional results, but it doesn't get me anything. I've been overlooked for promotion, sometimes more than once. So they're sort of burned out. They feel like they can't give any more of themselves and don't quite know what to do. And I think that often they're given poor advice as they go along the way. They're told to work on their leadership. They're told that they're just not strategic enough. They're told that they're not showing up really as ready, if you like, for that senior leadership promotion. But then they're not given any of that support, the tools, the mentoring, the strategy to fix that problem. So what they do is they just tend to sort of bury their head down and just work even harder to deliver more of the same exceptional results. So I always say to them, well, what's in it for you? As a result of doing all this work, what are you getting out of it? You're making your company more profitable, but what's in it for you? It's sometimes a bit of a light bulb that they have some agency around that and they can have some control over thinking, okay, well, is this enough for me? And do I want more from this? One of the things that we talk about a lot is this concept of positioning. You occupy a positioning in the company that you want to occupy. Are you perceived the way that you want to be perceived? Which is where this whole area of executive personal branding comes in, where we start looking at, well, what is the brand that you want to present? How does this person step up? How does she assume her authority in meetings, for example? So one of the big shifts that a lot of clients have to make is moving away from this idea of asking for permission and waiting to speak or waiting to disagree with something. One of the mistakes that women can make is assuming that there's something wrong with their leadership. And research has just shown time and time again that leadership is not a challenge that women should be focusing on, because women outscore men in their leadership across a range of different attributes and capabilities. The key ones are around transitioning and creating results within an organization. So really creating transformation within organizations. Women score very highly. Women score highly also in the areas of collaboration and galvanizing people, developing people, getting people from A to B and creating results as a team. They do a really good job in championing change. These are all really challenging leadership capabilities that women are nailing, right? And I think the reality is that we need to shift the focus away from pure leadership coaching and looking instead at, what do I want to do with that? How do I want to elevate myself within the business? How do I want to elevate my visibility and my credibility by adding that different value to the organization? And what I see a lot of my clients have to do is move from that operational deliverable sort of positioning in the business to that strategic thinker and that person who's thinking about what the business needs now to be successful, more competitive, or to be more profitable. The thing that's really useful is to take a step back and to consider, what am I doing at the moment that is getting me results? And what am I doing at the moment that really isn't getting me results? And when I say results, I don't mean results for the business. I mean results for you. So, if you're thinking about, okay, I want to get promoted in the next 6 months to 12 months, or I want to negotiate a 20% pay rise, you've got to ask yourself, am I doing everything that I need to do right now to get those outcomes for me? And if you're not, then something needs to change, because it's a lonely place, corporate. I mean, it is a lonely place. And I think the more senior you become, CEOs, for example, are always talking about how lonely it is at the top, because it is, right? You're supposed to know everything, and yet you're still a human being who has flaws and vulnerabilities. But I think the first thing is just to acknowledge, do I have everything I need around me in terms of the support that I need? So one of the key questions I ask my clients is, do you feel like you're being set up for success? And that's not just about you setting yourself up for success. It's also like, is your boss setting you up for success right now? Do you have influential people around you who are backing you and are supporting you? That's sponsorship. Do you have people around you who are mentoring you and giving you insights as to how to do your job better? That's mentorship. So the first thing I would always think of is like, do I have what I need around me? Do I have the people that I need around me to be successful? And do I feel like I have the capabilities that I need and the experiences that I need to be successful? Because I see as we become more senior, I think one of the things that we need to be thinking about a lot is essentially broadening our experience. So people can get stuck in this silo, if you like, and become a complete domain expert, which of course is hugely valuable. But as you move up the ladder, what you've got to be thinking about is broadening the experiences. I think the key is to back yourself, right? The key is to really understand the value that you can add to this business going forwards. And I think women tend to undersell themselves. And I think some of that comes from being young girls and being told to, get A stars and everything will all work out in the end if you get great grades. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't compute like that in the real world. Some of it also comes from the fact that we've been in this system that has told us to do a great job. But when we do a great job, we still don't get the recognition that we want. And so I find it's like a little surprise that so many women do have confidence challenges and are questioning their value and undersell themselves when it comes to interviews or when it comes to like an internal promotion opportunity. We're in this environment that is challenging our very worth every single day. And I think that is a huge systemic problem that we have. But I think the number one thing you've got to do is you've got to be really good at identifying the value you've already added. So rather than thinking about, I need more, I need to add more, I need to, have take on another degree, or I need to have more qualifications to be credible or to be valuable today, what you've got to get really good at is understanding that I've already got a lot to offer. And it's about sort of quantifying that value and talking about it in a really confident way so that you can present yourself as somebody who's a credible potential partner.